The Sierra Club has decided it's going to reverse course and turn over its long-standing policy against breaking the law. They're going to actually engage in civil disobedience. This was just announced this week. The executive director of the Sierra Club, Michael Brune, he was actually on the Young Turks on Monday with Cenk, and he talked about how important it is for the president to take action on climate change. So what they're doing now, the Sierra Club, they are going to sponsor a huge, massive rally in Washington, D.C. on February 17th to protest the Keystone XL pipeline. And this is a really big deal for the Sierra Club. You know, they're one of the more staid, conservative, grand old gentlemen, I guess, of the environmental groups. And so for them to say that this is important enough that we're going to change our policy and get ourselves arrested and go to jail for this, this is a really big deal. What do you guys think?
I think it's a good step forward, right? I think they're realizing that their tactics aren't working and that perhaps this direction is at least worth giving a shot, right?
I think that one of the most depressing statistics that I've seen in probably the last 5 or so years is that roughly after Al Gore's documentary came out and everything, support for the idea that global warming is happening had been going up in the first few years of this decade. But then 3 or 4 years ago, it started to dip down, not just in the United States, but in the UK as well. And it just blew my mind that as the evidence was ramping up and mounting up in support of the fact that this is happening, the public support for doing anything about it was going down, or even believing that it existed was going down. I think that I don't know if it's a fault of the organizations that they aren't able to get the word out, or if it's just the fact that conservative groups and conservative pundits are muddying the waters so much with their talk about it all being a big hoax and that you can't trust the scientists. But
I wonder, do you think it's tied to the economy at all? Are people more concerned about, other more relevant, more pressing issues than the environment, right? Our economy's struggling.
Actually,
so
the answer,
like people are pushing it to the side.
Exactly. That is what happens now, is that there are polls that show that whenever the economy tanks, that people care less for the environment, they care more for jobs, and that makes a lot of sense, But with the extreme weather that we've been having, which climate scientists predicted would happen decades ago, they said we can expect that with global warming, we'll see more extreme swings in both temperature and extreme weather events that will happen more often, they'll be more intense. That these kinds of things actually do have an effect on the American public, on their opinion polls. Hurricane Sandy hit, a lot of people suddenly said, oh, this is what you're talking about. Oh, I see. When I've got and my house is under 15 feet of water and getting washed away. Sometimes it does take getting hit upside the head in order to decide to take action on something. And what's really going to be very interesting about this is that scientists do say that we are in a very brief window of time where we can make a difference and actually stave off some of the worst effects of climate change that they have modeled with computer models and said, hey, this looks like this thing that happened back about 55 million years ago where the poles had no water and there were alligators up at the Arctic. And they say, okay, that could be a problem. That could, sea levels rising up 150 feet, 300 over a couple hundred years, we're going to have some issues to deal with and a lot of other issues as well. So this window of time that we have open, they're saying, President Obama, you need to act. And their Sierra Club is saying that we are going to make sure that he does, as at least pushing as much as we can into it and influencing the conversation as much as we can.
Well, let me ask you a question in regards to that. So the Sierra Club is saying that we are going to do what we've never done before, and we're going to actually do civil disobedience. Do you think that that's enough at this point? Like, I've heard arguments about that window as well, and I've also heard some scientists who think that we might very well be past it, or at least it's about to pass us by. And if after all of this and all the extreme weather that we've seen over the last few years, is a rally enough at this point?
Right.
Do you think that conservatives, if they cared as much about an issue, would just be rallying?
There really are a few conservatives that do care about climate change and actually accept the scientific evidence. So there is a promising movement in that direction. And I think that by the Sierra Club doing this, that being this venerable organization coming out, that they do provide some political cover, some political room. If they can make the rally big enough, if enough people show up on February 17th and for future actions that they're planning with 350.org, they do have a chance to, influence the conversation, push it into a way. The Sierra Club also has a lot of money.
That's
and
true.
they put that money toward ads. And when people see ads, when people hear politicians talking about it, and then they hear the media talking about what the science says versus what the deniers say, when they hear the president talking about it, when they hear politicians talking about it, it helps to actually move the needle just a little bit even on taking action on this very serious problem that the window is closing.